comments, speculates, judgments, compares, complaints, likes, dislikes, and so on. The voice isn't necessarily relevant to the situation you find yourself at the time. It may be receiving the recent or distant past, or rehearsing or imagining possible future situations. Very often imagines things going wrong and negative outcomes. This is called worry. Sometimes this soundtrack is accompanied by visual images and memories. Even if the voice is relevant to the situation within, it will interpret it in terms of the past. This is because the voice belongs to your conditioned mind, which is the result of all your past history as well as the collective cultural mindset you inherited. So, you see and judge the present through the eyes of the past and to get a totally distorted view of it. It is not uncommon for the voice to be the present's own worry's worst enemy. Many people live with a tormentor in their head that continues attacks, that punishes them and trains them of vital energy. It is the cause of a fall of misery and unhappiness as well as of the disease. The good news is that you can free yourself from your mind. This is the only true liberation. You can take the first step right now. Start listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. Pay particular attention to when you refer to your thought patterns. Those are old gramophone records that have been playing in your head perhaps for many years. This is what I mean by watching the thinker, which is another way of saying listen to the voice in your head. Be there as the witness presence. When you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. That is to say, do not judge. Do not judge or condemn what you hear, for doing so would mean that the same voice that has communicated through the back door. You will soon realize there is the voice and the here I am listening to it, watching it. This I am realization is a sense of your own presence. It's not a thought. It arises from beyond the mind. As you listen to the thought, you feel a conscious presence. Your deeper self, behind or underneath the thought. As it were, the thought then loses its power over you and quickly subsides. Because you are no longer energizing the mind through identification with it. This is the beginning of the end of involuntary and compulsive thinking. In this way, you draw consciousness away from the mind activity and the creative gap of a moment in which you are highly alert and aware of not thinking. This is the essence of meditation. Pay close attention to every step, every moment, every year of breathing. Be totally present. Pay attention to all the sense perceptions associated with the activity. The sound and the feel of the water, the movement of your hands, the scent of itself and so on. Or when you get into your car, after close the door, pause a few seconds and observe the flow of your breath. Become aware of the silent but powerful sense of presence. There is one certain criterion by which you can measure your success in this process, the degree of peace that you feel within. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. Your mind is an instrument, a tool. It is there to be used for specific task, and when the task is completed, you lay it down. As it is, I would say about 80 to 90% of most people's thinking is not only repetitive and useless, but because of its dysfunctional and often negative nature, much of it is also harmful. Observe your mind and you will find this is to be true. It As you have the choice to stop, it seems stronger than you. It also gives you a false sense of pleasure, pleasure that invariably turns into pain, because you believe that you would cease to be if you stopped thinking. As you grow up, you form a mental image of who you are based on your personal and the cultural conditioning. We may call this the phantom self, the ego, and consists of mind activity, and can only kept going during a constant thinking. The term ego means different things to different people, but when I use it here, it means that a false self created by unconscious identification with the mind. To the ego, the present moment hardly exists. Only past and future are considered important. This is a total reversal of the truth accounted for the fact that in the ego mode, the mind is so dysfunctional. It is always concerned with keeping the past alive because without it, who are you? It constantly projects itself into the future to ensure its continued survival and to seek some kind of release and fulfillment there. It says one day, when this, that, of the other person happens, I'm going to be okay, happy, at peace. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moments as long as you are your mind. I don't want to lose my ability to analyze and discriminate. I wouldn't mind learning to think more clearly in a more focused way, but I don't want to lose my mind. The gift of thought is the most precious thing we have. Without it, we were just another species of animal. We will be destroyed by the mind which has grown into the monster. I will talk about this in more detail later. Thinking and consciousness are not synonymous. Thinking is only a small aspect of a consciousness. Thought cannot exist without a consciousness, but consciousness does not need a thought. In the enlightenment state, you still use your thinking mind when needed, but in a much more focused and effective way than before. You use it mostly for practical purposes, but you're free of the involuntary internal dialogue, and there is inner stillness. You oscillate every few minutes or so between thought and stillness, between mind and no mind. No mind is consciousness without thought. Only in that way is it possible to think creatively, because only in that way does thought have a real power. Thought alone, when it is no longer connected with a much vaster realm of consciousness, quickly becomes barren, insane, and destructive. The mind is essentially a survival machine, attack, and a defense against another minds gathering, storing, analyzing information. This is what it's good at, but it is not at all creative. All true artists, whether they know it or not, create from a place no mind, from inner stillness. The mind then gives the form of creative impulse and insight. It wasn't through the mind, through thinking. Emotion, the body's reaction to your mind. Mind and the way I use the word. It's not just that. It includes in your emotions as well as in all unconscious mental emotional reactive patterns. Emotion arises at the place where mind and body meet. It is the body's reaction to your mind, or you might say a reflection of your mind in the body. For example, an attack, thought or hostile thought will create a buildup of energy in the body that we call anger. The body is getting ready to fight. The thought that you're being threatened physically or psychologically causes the body to contract, and this is the physical side of what we call fear. Research has shown that strong emotions even cause changes in the biochemistry of the body. These biochemical changes represent the physical and material aspect of emotion. Of course, you are not usually conscious of all your thought patterns, and it is often only through watching your emotions that you can bring them into awareness. The more you are identified with your thinking, your likes and dislikes, judgments and interpretation, which is to say, the less present you are as the watching consciousness, the stronger the emotional energy charge will be, whether you are aware of it or not. If you cannot feel your emotions, if you are cut off from them, you will eventually experience them on the purely physical level as a physical problem or a symptom. You say that an emotion is mind's reflection in the body, but sometimes there is a conflict between the two. The mind says no, while the emotion says yes, or the other way around. If you really want to know your mind, the body will always give you a truthful reflection. So look at the emotion, or rather feel it in your body. If there is an apparent conflict between them, the thought will be the lie, the emotion will be the truth. Oh, the thought will be the lie, the emotion will be the truth. Not the ultimate truth of who you are, but the relative truth of a state of mind at the time. Truth of a state of mind, emotion, state of mind, thought. Okay, conflict between surface thoughts and unconscious mental process is certainly common. You may not yet be able to bring your unconscious mind activity into awareness as thoughts, but it will always be reflecting the body as an emotion. And of this, you can become aware. To watch an emotion in this way is basically the same as listening to or watching a thought, which I described earlier. The only difference is that while a thought is in your head, an emotion has a strong physical component and so is primarily felt in the body. You can then allow emotion to be there without being controlled by it. You no longer are the emotion, you are the watcher, the observing presence. You no longer are the emotion. You no longer are the emotion, you are the watcher, the observing presence. If you practice this, all that is unconscious in you will be brought into the light of consciousness. So observing our emotion is important as observing our thoughts. Yes, making a habit of asking yourself, observing our emotions, observing thoughts. What's going on inside me at this moment? The question will point you in the right direction, but don't analyze, just watch. Focus your attention within. Feel the energy of the emotion. If there is no emotion present, take your attention more deeply into the inner energy field of your body. It is the doorway into the Okay, so observing our emotion is important as observing our thoughts. Yes, making a habit to ask yourself, what's going on inside me at this moment? The question will point you in the right direction. But don't analyze, just watch. Focus your attention within. Feel the energy of your emotion. If there is no emotion present, take your attention more deeper into the inner energy field of your body. It is the door into being. If you are pulled into unconscious identification with emotion through a lack of presence, which is normal, the emotion temporarily becomes yes, often a vicious cycle between your thinking and the emotion. They feed each other. The thought pattern creates a magnified reflection of itself in the form of an emotion, and the vibrational frequency of the emotion keeps on feeding in the original thought pattern. By dwelling mentally on the situation, event, or person, that is the perceived cause of the emotion. The thought feeds the energy to the emotion, which in turn energizes the thought pattern, and so on. In fact, the harder the mind struggles to get rid of the pain, the greater the pain. The mind can never find a solution, nor can it afford to allow you to find the solution, because it is itself an intrinsic part of the problem. So you need to become fully conscious of your emotions and be able to feel them before you can feel the which lies beyond them. Emotion literally means disturbance. The word comes from the Latin remorse. Love, joy, and peace are deep states of being, or rather three aspects of the state of inner connectedness with being. Many love relationships and after initial euphoria has passed, actually oscillate between love and hate, attraction and attack. Hmm. As such, they have no opposite. This is because they arises from beyond the mind. Emotions, on the other hand, being part of the dualistic mind, are subject to law of opposites. This simply means that it cannot have a good without bad. So, in the unalignment mind identified condition, what is sometimes wrongly called joy is usually short, lived pleasure side of your continuously altering pain or pleasure cycle. Pleasure is always derived from something outside you, whereas joy arises from within. Um, the very thing that gives you pleasure today will give you pain tomorrow. It will leave you, so its absence will give you the pain. And what is often referred to as love may be pleasurable and exciting for a while, but it is an addictive clinging, an extremely needed condition that can turn into its opposite at the flick of switch. Many love relationships after initial euphoria has passed actually oscillate between love and hate and attraction and attack. Real love doesn't make you suffer. How could it be? How could it? It doesn't suddenly turn into hate, nor does real joy turn into pain. As I say, even before you are enlightened, before you have freed yourself from your mind, you may get glimpses of true joy, true love, or a deep inner peace. Still, but vibrantly alive, these are aspects of our true nature, which is usually obscured by the mind. Even when the sky is heavily overcast, the sun hasn't disappeared. It is still there, on the other side of the clouds. Pain is inevitably as long as you are identified with your mind, which is to say, as long as you, unconscious, spiritually speaking. I'm talking here primarily emotional pain, which is also the main cause of physical pain and physical disease, resentment, hatred, self-pity, guilt, anger, depression, jealousy, and so on. Even the slightest irritation are all form of pain. Seen from a higher perspective, both negative and positive polarities are faces with the same coin. There are two levels of your pain: the pain that you created now, and the pain from the past that still lives on your mind and body. Wow. Seeking to create a pain in the present and the disturbing past pain. This is what I want to talk about now. Okay.